Greetings, viewers. EricTheCarGuy here once again with more, I hope, useful information for you. On its way to the shop now is a giant box truck. It is the General Motors manufacturer, and I'm going to be changing the transmission fluid and filter. Fun. I'm probably not going to be able to jack this thing up, so I'm going to be sliding under the car, but if nothing else, I can give you an idea what it is to drop the pan, drain the fluid, get the filter out, put a new filter in, get it all topped back off, and back on down the road with some fresh fluid and a nice filter on the inside of it. Stick around. Let's grab our trusty cardboard. Go take a look at this thing. You'll like this. Wow! Yeah, big old box truck. Anyway, let's crawl under it and see if we can figure out what transmission it has in it. Because it's really a Chevy van, and then it's got this attachment onto the back of it. So even my parts guys really don't know what transmission filter this thing takes, but they were kind enough to let me have all three so that I could find out. But they told me how I could check to find out the difference between transmissions. And those of you that work on GMs all the time, maybe you can offer something up in the comments. Welcome to the underbelly of the beast. A little big to be jacking this thing up. I might be able to get a little bit out of it, but I don't really think I need to. Some transmissions have some numbers that are either cast or marked on the top of the bell housing. This one, you'd have to, even if you remove the doghouse, you aren't gonna be able to get it anyway. But I've been told that you can count the bolts on the transmission pan. In fact, they've got charts with transmission pans that tell you what the different types of transmissions are. So people that work on transmissions all the time know that all you really need to do is count the bolts. But I'm sure if you work on transmissions all the time, you can just pretty much look at it and you know what you're looking at. But on this one, that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go around the outside, focus, go around the outside and count these. There's a choice between 16 or 17. And watch out for this exhaust pipe. It's kind of toasty. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nice of you guys to put that shift cable there. Thanks a lot for that. 14, 15, 16, 17. Lost my hat. It's got 17, so I believe this is the 80. And the higher the number on GM transmissions, if I remember, the more torque capacity it has, and I imagine on something this large they want lots and lots of torque. So what we need to do first off in this particular case is find ourselves a pan that has a big square thing on it, so that we can catch all this fluid, because there's no drain plug here. So we're just going to drop the pan to drain it. And I'm going to take these fasteners out in the front first, so that the fluid goes towards the front instead of towards the back on the exhaust. That way we'll get all the ones in the front out, and then the front will drop down and fluid will start spilling out everywhere. And once we do that, well, we will get a look at that filter and pop that off, stick a new one in, top it off, and away we go. Let's do this. This is what I'm talking about to catch the fluid. Super helpful. I'll just put it right there on top of that, and I'll be able to catch super amounts of fluid. Looks like these fasteners are 10 millimeter. If I guess wrong, it's a long walk back. I'm going to grab a couple of different sized extensions to get up in there, and the ratchet wrench. Everybody asks me why I don't have these. Well, I got two, and they're both 10 millimeter. I'm actually going to start by removing this cable. So I'm going to move you around the other side. We need to get this out of our life because it is blocking the pan, as you can see. So I'm going to remove this fastener, and this is basically the gear selector. So when you move the gear, it's going to move this. So try not to move this when you take it off so it'll get out of park. In fact, I should probably go chock the wheels before I get started with this. But it just so happens that the fasteners that hold this on from the top are not just regular fasteners. They are torque spits. So I'm going to take this bracket off with these two fasteners up here, and I'm going to take this one off, get this cable out of the way, then I can get to these to drop the pan. Okay, so we'll just make sure the parking brake's on. Okay, so just like I said, I'm shifting gears. Whoop, sorry. That would be park. And by the way, I'm keeping all these in my handy magnetic tray. This is of a shape to where it can only go on one way. So keep that in mind. Now you can just take this cable, put it someplace where it's not going to send fluid everywhere. You don't need to position your pan just yet, but when you get the first few fasteners off, and these are 10 millimeter by the way, you get the first few fasteners off, you want to get the pan under there just in case this thing suddenly drops, which is probably what's going to happen and give you a face full of transmission fluid. Just be aware that you're going to get dirty. That's what we do here at Eric the Car Guy. We get dirty. Drippage. You want to try and work it so that as it drains, you're on the other side. You don't want to be in that red rain if you can help it. There we go. Now we're getting some drainage. Now you get down to the last bolt. Very slowly undo it because this pan is going to drop. You can try to hold it with one hand, as you can see. It's draining out pretty nice now. All right. Now that all your fasteners are out, you can sneak this pan out of here. Now you got the pan off. It's all full of goo. You can set that aside. Dump all that out. That's going to be part of it. And then, now we can get to the filter. So let's go up there and look at that filter. Okay, here it is. And it's not bolted in at all. Some of these are actually fastened. This is the inlet for the filter. Some of these are actually fastened up in here. This one is not. I'm under here now showing you this, but I'm going to slip the pan back in here because when I pull this out, probably from this area right here, there's probably going to be some fluid coming out. You just give it a little wiggle, and there it is. There's your filter. Yay! And there is an O-ring up in here. You're probably going to get a new one on the filter. Take a moment to empty out that pan of all the yuck. Old fluid. And now we can take a second. Here's the old gasket. We can look at that and compare that to our new gasket. Make sure we got the right kit. Like I said, there was a choice of 3 here. Here's the old filter. The new filter does not have an O-ring on it, so we're just going to leave the O-ring inside the transmission that's there. It does, however, have this magnet, which has some metal on it. This is completely normal. Don't worry about it. But if you see a whole lot of metal here, it came from somewhere, and that would be the parts inside the transmission, so be aware of that. But this one, fluid and everything, looks in good shape. Now I've gone ahead and cleaned off the metal off that magnet. I've laid my new gasket over old. All the holes match up, so I know I've got the right filter. I've checked to make sure that those are both the same. And like I said, that does not actually look like it comes with a new, it does. Just gotta pop it out of there. It comes with a new rubber seal, which I will install. I'm just gonna take the old gasket and set it aside. Empty out the rest of this fluid. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna clean the mating surface off with a rag. So it's nice and clean. I'm gonna do this before I put the filter in. Because while I'm putting the filter in, I want my little bit of sealant to cure. And here's something you'll notice. This gasket didn't have any sealant on it, and it came right off. That's awesome. You should do the same and let your gasket do the sealing for you and not cover it up with a bunch of RTV. Because that is not going to help anybody, including the next guy that goes to do this job. Now all I'm going to do is just put a little dab of RTV in a couple of spots to just sort of hold the gasket in place. In fact, RTV is not really the thing to use here. There's actually a gasket adhesive that you can use to do this same thing, but I don't have it. But as you can see, all I need is this much, because really, it just needs to stay in place long enough for me to get the fasteners in. Once I do that, then the fasteners will hold it in place. I don't have to worry about it, and the gasket can do its job. I'm applying the adhesive / sealant to the pan because it's a lot easier to get old gasket and gunk off the pan than it is off the transmission. And of course, a little bit of it got wet. Well, that's just what happens. If it can go wrong, probably will. All right. I'm just gonna let that set. Even though this isn't down over here, so what? Like I said, I just need to get a fastener in there, through that hole, and I'm good to go. Now, I am not going to try to pop this old seal out. It's still very pliable, and sometimes the seal that's in there is better than the one that you could put in there. So I'm just gonna see how my filter goes up in there. If it fits snug, it's sealed, and it fits snug. I'm not putting anything on it, but I'm putting it all the way up until it hits that shoulder right here. And it sort of fits into place. There we go. New filter's installed. I'm gonna clean around the sealing surface a little bit. Hello, shift cable. Thought I got rid of you. The important thing is to not get any dirt up in here. See that? Hanging down there? Dipstick. Cool. Let's get that pan on here. And very carefully try and position the pan back up onto the transmission. Like I said, run a couple of those easy fasteners in on both sides. Ooh. Make sure your gasket's still there. Make sure you're using the right fasteners. Those are for that shift cable. Alright, now it's not going to fall on your head, and you can just get them all started before you start running them down. and just kind of eyeball to make sure that that gasket didn't roll back in to the pan, and then it's still going to be there when you tighten it down. It's times like this that air tools can be of benefit, but you don't want to over torque these. In fact, transmission pans usually are fastened down by a matter of inch pounds, not foot pounds. So you don't want to tighten this so much that it causes the pan to deform and the gasket not to seal. You just want to run it down so that it's snug and the gasket can seal. And that's all you got to do. You don't need to kill it. Never did anything to you. And when you tighten these down, think of it like a wheel. Jump back and forth from one side to the other and work it down. Consistency is important when you tighten it. Is it a bad idea to use a torque wrench? No. But I can say, at least for me, I know how something feels. I can't say I'm as accurate as a torque wrench, but I could say that I know when something's tight, and I know when I'm tightening into aluminum, like I am here, to be particularly careful. Because aluminum can be your best friend and your worst enemy. It's nice and light and strong, and for the most part it holds up well. But at those times where something goes wrong with a fastener, life is not good. Now you might want to go around and just check to see if you got them all, because you might have missed one. There's a lot of them here. I remember our friend Mr. Shifter Cable. Hope he didn't forget. I didn't. You won't get far without him. Oh yeah, one on like this. Make sure it gets on there nice and straight. You don't need to kill it, but you do need to get it on there. Now for these other two fasteners. Okay. We're done down here. Now that we've got everything fastened underneath, it's all sealed back up, that kind of stuff, we need to put some fluid in. The only real place to put fluid in these transmission is down through the dipstick hole. Kind of a pain, but that's what you've got. Some of them it's even more fun. I've seen transmissions that have fill plugs on the side, Isuzu, now that I'm thinking about it, that you actually have to check the fluid and top it off while the transmission is running. Kind of scary. This you don't have to. This you can start dumping it in. I usually start with 5 quarts and then start it up and check it. So that's what I'm going to do. But you want to make sure that you have the proper amount in there. But I usually start with 5 in a transmission this big. Transmission dipstick usually has a little gear on it. In some parts of the world, also known as a gearbox. Now that is a dipstick. It's so long, I can't even get it all in frame. It's not the size of your dipstick, it's how you use it, I guess. Make it wait. I'm using Dextron. Dextron/Mercon mix. It's what the majority of transmissions out there take. But you want to check with your manufacturer because some transmissions require special fluids. Hondas come to mind. A lot of your Europeans also have special fluids. So you want to make sure you check that, because there's no quicker way to kill a transmission than to put the wrong fluid in it. And here you are trying to do some maintenance and you actually end up destroying it. In fact, about a month ago I put a transmission in a guy's car because one, he didn't know the procedure for checking the fluid itself, and two, because he put the wrong fluid in it. So he ended up spending quite a bit of money to repair a problem that he created. Don't do that. I'm actually going to start with 4 instead of 5 here. Some like Honda transmissions, they only take 3 quarts, so don't try putting 5 in there. But that's a whole other video. But now I'm going to jump in and I'm going to start it up. Before we even got started with this, wanted to make sure that this was on a level surface. If you try to check the fluid and it's not on a level surface, the fluid level is not going to be accurate the way it reads. So make sure you're on a level surface when you're checking the fluids. For these, they need to start up and run in order to check the level. And you can just slowly shift down through all the gears and make sure all the fluid circulates through the entire transmission also. It's a good sign when you actually feel it moving. If you don't feel it moving, it could be a problem. Like I said, when it's running, you want to insert your ample dipstick. And you may need to let it sit and run for a while because the fluid is still down inside the tube. So as you run the dipstick down in there, you're not going to get an accurate reading right away. And on this one, I've got some on the stick here, but I'm not seeing any really down on the end. I'm going to check it once more. But you're looking for something in between there, the cold and the hot. And you saw where the dipstick went into the pan, so now you know exactly where the level's being checked. Now it looks like it's too full, but I don't trust that. I'm gonna let that fluid go down in that tube a little more, because I don't think there's any way 4 quarts is all this is gonna take. Let it run for a minute. Okay, I've let it sit for about 5 minutes running. Now the fluid's gone down in there, and I got no reading on the stick, so I think I was right with my 5. So I'm going to dump another quart in and wait. This part of the process kind of sucks, but fluid level is important. You want to make sure you get it right. Now that it's all back together and running, and you're waiting to check the fluid, you might want to go underneath and check again to see if there is any leaks. All right, now we're getting somewhere. You can see the fluid after 5 quarts ended up being right in the hot range, and the engine's hot. So now the thing to do, and that was after 5 quarts, by the way. Now the thing to do is take it out, drive it around, check it tomorrow after you've driven it, and see if it's still at the right level. I suspect it will be. Oh yeah, and as you're checking the fluid, if it is between those 2 hatches, so in other words, if you're on the bottom mark of the dipstick, from there to the top mark is only half a quart. So it's not like engine oil, to where if you're on the bottom mark, if you put a quart in, it'll most likely go to the top mark. On these, if it's transmission, if it's on the bottom mark, it's only half a quart to get it to the top mark. So don't overfill it, because you see what you have to go through to get it out. You're better off having it low than putting it too high, because you'll have to drop the pan again to get some fluid out if you've got too much in. So don't do that. Or I suppose you could take one of the coolant lines off, but that'll get really messy. And once you're done with all this stuff, make sure you dispose of the fluid properly. I actually recycle mine. They come and pick it up for me. Okay. I always say okay. And I say that a lot also. I'm gonna try not to say those words because I annoy myself. I gotta tell you, when you make videos of yourself and you get a chance to see what a dork you are, good luck with that. I am Eric the Car Guy. As always, I hope this information was useful and helpful. I think I just about covered everything with this one. So I'm gonna close out now, and I really thank you for watching. I also thank you for subscribing, because lots of you have been doing that, and I really appreciate that, because, you know, I feel the love, and I like that a lot. From all over the world at that. Finland, Afghanistan, England, everywhere, Australia. Love you all, seriously, thank you. I'm Eric the Car Guy. You can always visit me at EricTheCarGuy.com, and be safe, have fun, stay dirty. See ya.